Welcome to this week's Facebook Live class, in which we will speak about the importance of being merciful in our life. And give me just a second so that we can go live on our Facebook page, Bhakti Yoga Online. So just take a second. Okay, so here we go. We are now live. Okay. So welcome again, also those who might be watching on Facebook. Our topic this week is very, very interesting and very important. It is the topic of mercy or mercifulness. So I will touch upon this topic from two angles of vision. How we can receive mercy, but even more important is how we ourselves are practicing mercy. And to start this little class, I will read from the ancient yoga textbook, Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is a text from the first canto, 17th chapter, and text 38. This is very, very amazing story and amazing text. And I will also tell you some background story which is connected with this verse. So the translation of this verse goes like this. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. And I read just a little portion of the commentary, the purport. The basic principles of irreligiosity, such as pride, prostitution, intoxication, and falsehood, counteract the four principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. The personality of Kali was given permission to live in four places, particularly mentioned by the king, namely the place of gambling, the place of prostitution, the place of drinking, and the place of animal slaughter. So this is now something really, really important for us to think about, to comprehend, because this class is especially meant for all of you who are already on the spiritual path, especially on the path of bhakti, and also for those of you who may be interested, who are spiritual seekers. So to just give a short recap of my previous classes on this similar topic, I just want to I repeat again the two qualities that we already talked about. So we already talked about truthfulness, the importance of truthfulness in our life, and how actually this brings about peace of mind and really helps one to advance spiritually. And we were also talking last week about the power of austerity or penance, how this is actually the spiritual potency with which one can create and which directly brings him in touch with the Supreme Personality, connects him with divine consciousness, and gives him shelter of the spiritual energy. So these were two important qualities. And as we were reading in this text today, there are actually 4 basic principles or 4 basic qualities which are very important for every person who wants to make steady and smooth progress in spiritual life. So truthfulness, and then austerity, then cleanliness, and mercy or mercifulness. So next week we will discuss about cleanliness, but today we will speak about mercy. And I want to tell you a little more about this background story, because the text that I was reading was about what the King Parikshit, told to Kali, the personality of Kali. Some of you were listening the previous class, so you may remember that I described this whole incident, how the King Parikshit, he went around his kingdom to see if everything is going all right, and then he came upon a strange person dressed as a king who was torturing the bull. He was like trying to cut his last leg. And the king was immediately very protective of the bull, and he wanted to kill this Kali immediately. But what did Kali do? Kali, who is the personification of the quarrel and the all evils of this present age in which we live, he took shelter of the king. He surrenders to him. And the king, as very truthful and very a personality who is really true to his position of a great leader, he immediately gave him shelter, because the kings in old ages who were saintly kings, if somebody surrendered to them, they did not kill such a person, because this is also a principle for a leader, that a leader has to give protection to a person who surrenders to him. So king was now obliged to give protection even to this evil person, Kali. But of course, the king was very, very intelligent, and he knew very well that the personality Kali is here only to create disturbance and to bring negativity and destruction. So he was very, very concerned not to allow him and to just reside even in his kingdom. So the first thing was, he said, okay, I will spare your life, but you are banned. You have to go out of my kingdom. But the problem was that his kingdom was entire planet. So Kali, poor Kali, he understood. He said, but my dear king, I have to live somewhere, please give me some place where I can live. And then the king, very intelligently, he said, all right, you can live in the places where there is prostitution, where there are slaughterhouses, where there is intoxication or drinking of wine or other intoxicants, and where there is gambling. And the king knew very well that there were no such places in his kingdom at that time. Can you imagine? There were no such places in his kingdom. And when was that? That was 5,000 years ago on this planet Earth. There were no such places. But Kali was not foolish. He also knew very well that there are no such places in the entire kingdom. And so then he again begged the king. He said, my dear king, please give me something practical. Give me the place where I can live. If you give me the shelter, so there I have to live somewhere. And then the king said, all right, you can live in the place where gold is stored. So this is something amazing. So this also reveals that gold is actually someone who is storing gold, or places where there is gold accumulated. In gold are all these four irreligious principles of intoxication, of prostitution, of slaughtering the animals, and of gambling, or spreading lies. So gambling or spreading lies is the same. So the same principle. So wherever there is gold, like accumulation of gold, there are all these negative irreligious principles. So this is something very, very important and very interesting, because if we just look at the society globally at present, what is happening, these four activities are everywhere. They're spread everywhere. And the main reason for this is because the gold in this age is based on falsity. It's the present time money. I will not say for everyone, because Russia actually bound their ruble to gold. But like for other countries, the paper money does not really have the basis in the gold value, because there is so much money printed out that is actually just paper. It does not really have any real value. And this is falsity. And because of this falsity in this principle of money or gold, all these other four principles are there, and they are like spreading everywhere globally and destroying our entire civilization, our entire society. And this is also why, on the contrary, these four religious principles of truthfulness, cleanliness, austerity, and mercifulness are so incredibly important. Because when people learn about these qualities, and when people start practicing them in their personal lives, and especially when the leaders come who honor these principles and who make endeavor to institute these principles within their country, within the society, then the personality of Kali, which is the personification of everything which is evil at present time, will have to go away, and there will not be any more place for him. So this is why it is so important that we speak about these things, that we discuss, and that we try to practice. So today we are going to discuss a little more specifically about mercy. So mercy is in Sanskrit, the word is daya or doya, mercifulness. And there are some definitions of mercy is very simple, actually. Daya or doya means to serve those who are we could say in an inferior position or like less fortunate than oneself. So when one is trying to help such people or animals or any other living beings who are in an inferior position, this is then called doya or mercy. And then again, doya also means to be compassionate to those who are fallen or who suffer, who are distressed. It's very, very important principle to not be judgmental or to not be vengeful or trying to revenge, but to actually really practice this principle of compassion. Very important for every person who is trying to advance on the spiritual path. And then another point, extremely important definition, part of definition, what is this mercifulness? Also means to be compassionate and kind to those who are weak. So if we look in the society, then who is weak in the society? There are certain sections of people who are weak in the society. And there are actually 5 categories of these living entities. And these are children. Children are very almost helpless on their own. They require protection and care and love. So they're very weak. And it's very, very important to be very protective and very merciful and compassionate to children, to really care about them, to protect them by all means. Because when there are evil people, they go first after the children. They want to damage the children, hurt children, kill children. Then the next category of people who are very weak are women. Women as a category are vulnerable and they require protection. So it is very, very important in the society that there is a structure which protects women from all points of view, from material point of view, as well as from a spiritual point of view, emotional point of view. So this is a very important principle. And also one thing is very important, that we in this ancient culture or Vedic culture, this is the culture which is actually spiritual culture or Brahminical culture. The ladies were always protected, were always considered, were always cared about, cherished. They were not neglected or abused. As soon as we can see in the society that the women are getting abused, this is the indication that the society is going to, that the society is degraded and that this society will be destroyed. So it is that important to protect the women, the ladies. And then the next category of very weak people are the old people, the seniors. Very important. If we can just see what is happening in our present society, old people are pushed out of the society. They are put into the old people's homes where they are basically waiting to die. They are not really having any real active role in the society for most of the part, except for politicians. Politicians, they remain in their posts until death, even if they are very, very old. But for general society, the old people are excluded from being very active, and they are neglected. But it's actually very important that the mercy the principle of mercy is to protect them, to be very caring and loving and protecting towards them. Then the next category of people who are weak and who require this mercy and protection are the Brahmanas. So who are the Brahmanas? The Brahmanas are actually intellectual people, but these are not just ordinary teachers. These are actually people who are studying and teaching spiritual knowledge, and at the same time who have acquired very righteous character. Because in this Vedic civilization, in the Vedic culture, somebody cannot qualify to be a Brahmana if he does not have good character, good qualities. All these qualities which I'm speaking about now, he has to have such qualities and even much more than that. So such people require special protection, And in the Vedic culture, such people were protected by the state leaders. They were actually given, they were actually maintained by the king. They were given whatever they needed. They were given land, they were given cows, they were given money, they were given whatever they required. So they were actually able to give their service of teaching this higher knowledge, spiritual knowledge, just like for free, because they were completely taken care of. And so they were fully giving themselves in teaching the general mass of people in this higher spiritual knowledge. So they require special protection. And then another category of living entities, the animals, and among the animals, especially the cows. Protection of cows, mercy towards cows is essential for the society, for the survival of society. If the society wants to survive, the cows need to be protected. But what do we see in a present day society around the globe, everywhere? We can see slaughterhouses and mass killing, especially of cows, killing and torturing. And this is another indication that this civilization cannot remain. This civilization, it's ruining itself. Of course, and then besides cows, also other animals, because we as human beings, we don't have the right to kill other living beings, to kill animals just for the satisfaction of our tongue. But these animals are actually considered to be like children. And we as humans, as being more developed, with higher consciousness, with higher intelligence, we actually need to be merciful and we need to protect them. This is the duty of a human being. So these are some of the things that I wanted to explain about the Doya, the mercifulness. So how do we practice this principle in our personal life? It's something very, very interesting. And this actually we can read in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is actually one more indication of being merciful. And this is to not put others in distress, or with other words, to help others with spiritual knowledge, giving them spiritual knowledge. So those of you who have some higher spiritual understanding or higher spiritual knowledge, you are actually duty bound to share this with others. Why? Because this spiritual knowledge removes distress. When people gain spiritual knowledge, they can end their suffering. This really is. So it really is like this. So therefore, being merciful in our personal life means that as we are getting this spiritual knowledge, as we are acquiring this, we have to find some ways and some means to share this with others. So not everybody perhaps will be speaking or writing books, but we can assist others who do so. Somehow be part of this mission of spreading this spiritual knowledge all over the globe. And there is actually also one very effective way of how anybody can be part of this spreading the spiritual knowledge and practicing this mercifulness in his personal life is by giving a certain percentage of his income for propagation of this spiritual knowledge. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can actually read that the injunction actually, the recommendation is to give 50% of one's income for this spiritual propagation of spiritual knowledge, this real absolute knowledge. And this is especially for those who have extra money. I know many people are struggling just to survive. So this is another situation. But when one is hoarding money, when one is hoarding this gold, right? If he or she wants to be happy, the only way is to give 50% for the highest cause, for the service, for the divine service, for the service of God, and for the propagating of this spiritual knowledge. So when one does this, what happens next? When one is practicing these principles, especially this principle of Daya, of being merciful, then one invites unlimited mercy into his or her own life. Because on the spiritual path, our advancement is not by our own effort. In other disciplines, in other kinds of yoga even, people try to advance by their own endeavor, by their own capacity, by their own power. But when we are on the true spiritual path, when we are practicing the highest of all yogas, when we are practicing bhakti yoga, this is the path of mercy, which means that we can advance only if we get mercy of those who are on spiritually superior positions of us. So if we get divine mercy, and when we get the mercy of those who are spiritually more advanced than us, and we will attract this mercy when we practicing mercifulness ourselves for those who are in need of mercy and who are less fortunate than us. So I will stop here and let me see if there is any question. If anybody is, okay, let me see. Okay, I'm just have to find So you can just write me now the question if I see, okay. Yeah, I'm just watching. Okay, we have some, yeah, somebody is still here. If there is any question, you can just write it here right now. And if it is not, then I will just conclude right now with this short class. Okay, thank you for your attention. And if anyone who will be watching this as a recording has any more question, then you're also welcome to write your question. This will be uploaded to the YouTube channel of Bhakti Yoga Online. So thank you very much. And we will be together again next week, next Tuesday.